Aham swaputran samanuvratena Somyanusochetam adaha patantam Bratre paritaya vidudruheyaha Niryapitojena suritsvapurya Aham swaputran samanuvratena Soumya, O gentle one, Anusoche, just lamenting, Tam, him, Adadha patantam, gliding down, Bratre, on his brothers, Paritaya, death, Vidudruhe, revolted against, Yaha, one who, Niryapita, driven out, Yena, by whom, Surit, well-wisher, Swapuryaha, from his own house, Aham, myself, Swaputran, with his own sons, Samanu Vratena, accepting the same line of action. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. O gentle one, I simply lament for he, Dhritarashtra, who rebelled against his brother after death. By him I was driven out of my own house, although I am his sincere well-wisher, because he accepted the line of action adopted by his own sons. Please repeat. O gentle one, I simply lament for he, Dhritarashtra, who rebelled against his brother after death. By him I was driven out of my own house, although I am his sincere well-wisher, because he accepted the line of action adopted by his own sons. Purport. Vidura did not ask about the welfare of his elder brother because there was no chance of his well-being, only news of his gliding down to hell. Vidura was a sincere well-wisher for Dhritarashtra, and he had a thought about him in the corner of his heart. He lamented that Dhritarashtra could rebel against the sons of his dead brother Pandu, and that he could drive him, Vidura, out of his own house on the dictation of his crooked sons. In spite of these actions, Vidura never became an enemy of Dhritarashtra, but continued to be his well-wisher. And at the last stage of Dhritarashtra's life, it was Vidura only who proved to be his real friend. Such is the behavior of a Vaishnava like Vidura. He desires all good, even for his enemies. Somyanu sochetamadaha patantam bratre paritaya vidudruheyaha niryapito jena surit swapurya aham swaputran samanuvratena. A gentle one, I simply lament for he, Dhritarashtra, who rebelled against his brother after death. By him I was driven out of my own house, although I am his sincere well-wisher, because he accepted the line of action adopted by his own sons. Om Gyantimirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshushun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. from my respectful obeisance unto my spiritual master. He forced my eyes open with the torchlight of transcendental knowledge. This chapter's beginning of the third canto, and we're hearing the background and the information that Vidura is presenting. Srimad Bhagavatam questions and answers. Vidura is asking questions of Maitreya. Maitreya and Uddhava were present when Krishna was departing, or performed his I think it's called Musalya Leela, his pastime of leaving the world. At that time, Uddhava, who was experiencing imminent separation, intense separation from his beloved Lord, who he'd spent a lot of time with, very intimately. Uddhava is considered to be a very intimate, very elevated servant of Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna wouldn't do anything in his pastime within the court of Dwarka without consulting Uddhava. Uddhava was his advisor, very confidential advisor. And Uddhava was also deputed as a messenger to go to the Vrindavan to try and pacify the gopis who were experiencing intense separation as well from Krishna. So Uddhava was a qualified messenger. Messenger can be there's different levels of messenger. A messenger can be somebody who is told, can you call them? Just somebody who passes on a prod. What do they do on the internet now? Send a wave or a prod to someone. So that's pretty rudimentary type of message. Beyond that is somebody who can express. They can read out. They can deliver more chosen words. A more elevated messenger is somebody who can present the message and then deal with the response, can continue to represent their master or the deliverer of the sender of the message. So Uddhava was sent, and he spent around 3 months or more in Vrindavan pacifying. Krishna himself couldn't go. He couldn't go back to Vrindavan at that time. So he sent Uddhava, his intimate servitor, who because of his closeness, his proximity to Krishna, had the same bodily hue. He had a similar appearance. When Uddhava first arrived in Vrindavan, everybody was looking at him. Is Krishna come back? Who is this? And except for wearing the Shamantaka jewel, the Srivats, the mark of Srivats on his chest, then Uddhava was different. Uddhava, being such an intimate servitor and friend of Lord Krishna, sometimes Krishna would give him his Shamantaka jewel to wear. And his garlands and everything. Uddhava was a very, very dear servant of Krishna. In fact, Krishna glorified him and said that you're more dear to me than even my very self, my own self. More dear than Lakshmi. Very dear. It's said that we can aspire to serve Krishna, and Lord Shiva, he describes to his wife that the greatest type of worship, Vishnu Aradhanam Sarvesham, the greatest worship is worship of Vishnu. But even higher than the worship of Vishnu is the worship of those things near and dear to Vishnu, such as his paraphernalia, his associates, his servants. That's a higher form of worship. So Uddhava, very dear to Krishna, and he spends time in Vrindavan. He witnesses the mood of the gopis' love and dedication to Krishna, and he honours them. He helps to pacify their feelings of separation. He and Maitreya heard Krishna's instructions, which constitute a large section of the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Uddhava Gita. Maitreya, not such an intimate servitor, he was actually a Jnani, a Jnana Mishra Bhakta. His presence, along with Vidura, dominates this third canto and further on. It's said that to be able to transmit the knowledge of bhakti, then to be trained in the skills of a jnani are very valuable. But devoid of bhakti, then they're useless. So Maitreya is entrusted now with presenting this information to Vidura. Vidura here is a sincere well-wisher of his misguided, ill-advised elder brother. So he's there with Uddhava, and Uddhava and Maitreya are there. Vidura meets Uddhava and he inquires from him. Uddhava is unable to respond because he becomes, and that's the next chapter coming up, he becomes too much overwhelmed in the ecstasy of remembrance of Krishna. And then out of etiquette, Uddhava declines to become the spiritual master of Vidura because Vidura was older than him. And he says, better you approach Maitreya. Maitreya is senior, and I don't want to commit the offence of Mariad, it's called, jumping over, being impertinent and saying that I can instruct you, whereas there's somebody who's more qualified in terms of seniority here. So Vidura and Maitreya, they're now questions and answers. This particular verse focuses in on his feelings, Vidura's feelings towards his elder brother, Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra appears as in the first verse of the Bhagavad Gita. Dhritarashtra uvacha, dharmaksetre kurukshetre, yuyutsavaha. And he's there, he's inquiring, he wants to know. He's employed by Vyasadeva as a literary means to give a summary of the Bhagavad Gita, a summary or an outline or an interview, a look into what's the Bhagavatam. Dhritarashtra is he's speaking a summary of the Bhagavatam. When I heard, or the summary of the Mahabharata, when I heard that this was happening, then I knew that I had no chance of success. When I heard that all that was going to be on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, which is a religious place, then I knew that those circumstances would favour the Pandavas. And he understood that his son, Duryodhana, evil-minded Duryodhana was wicked. So Duryodhana was a personification of Kali Yuga, sin personified. We have Vidura, he's an incarnation of Yamaraj, death personified. Death personified, coming in touch with the father of sin personified. So these great personalities, they have a part to play. They're part of Krishna's pastimes. They're serving a particular purpose. Duryodhana, contrasting Yudhisthira, helps to make that dynamic clear, the demon and the devotee. At one stage, both of those two personalities, Yudhisthira, Maharaj Yudhisthira, and King Duryodhana, they were requested by their teacher, their martial teacher, to go and find somebody who represented a particular quality. Yudhisthira was asked to find somebody who was lower than him. And Duryodhana was asked to go and find somebody who was superior to him. They went out all day, searched around, they came back and delivered the conclusion of their search. And Duryodhana was asked, "Did you find anybody better than you?" He said, "No. I am the one. I'm the best." And Yudhishthira, to contrast that, he was asked, "Did you find anybody lower than you? Anybody who's wretched?" And Yudhishthira said, "No. I'm the most fallen." Indicating the contrast there that's being presented in the conflict. Demons and devotees have eternally existed. The demons, part of Krishna's plan, highlight the qualities of the devotees. Maharaj Prahlad, great saintly Prahlad, son of one of the greatest demons of all time. Just like if you want to look into a diamond, it's a flawless diamond. If you just put it in the air, you see through it, and you can't pick up the facets, the flaws. But you put it against a black background, and then it becomes more prominent. It stands out. The diamond is more visible. So the devotee becomes more visible when put under trying circumstances. We're with our friends, we're with our associates. Sometimes we become a bit complacent. We get used to them. Oh, they're like this, they're like that, and I can treat them like this. Arjuna fell into that predicament. I've been sitting on the same bed as you. I've been regarding you as my friend. Please forgive my impertinence. So it doesn't hurt every now and then to just scratch below the surface a little bit with our associates. Help to bring out that devotional quality. Prabhu, what's your realization here about Krishna? Krishna is supposed to be the central focus of the interaction between the devotees. So if we're just taking that for granted, then we never realize the true benefit of devotional association. So see the contrast. See, and it's said that the friends, our real friends, become apparent in adversity. There's the fair weather friends who, when everything's going well and you've got lots of facility and you're happy, will come along and rub shoulders, try and take advantage of your up mood. But if you're feeling down and not exuberant, then you can, and you're going through trials and tribulations, you'll understand who are your real friends, who you can relate to at that time, and they can understand and not disrupt you even further. They can support you in your ongoing journey back to the spiritual world. Said one shouldn't become a friend. Guru na sasyat, pita na sasyat. One should not become a friend. One should not become a husband. One should not become a well-wisher. One should not become a guru. Guru na sasyat. Unless you can deliver your dependence. Deliver your dependence from the repeated cycle of birth and death. Dependents, friends, associates. What's the use of being considered a friend unless you can help someone? One definition in the scriptures of a real friend is somebody who's prepared to die for you. Somebody who's prepared to die for you. Somebody who will risk your life, to risk the life to protect the spiritual master. Then you become regarded as a real friend. True friend. A highly qualified servant. So Duryodhana and Yudhishthira are presented as contrasts here. Dhritarashtra, by bad association. Bad association can take one down. You have to be very careful about your association. Association in a big temple like this, there's lots of devotees around. Oh, I'm supported, I'm looked after, I'm protected. But you still have to be careful, because indiscriminate association with somebody who is not up to scratch. Somebody who's misrepresenting the philosophy. They don't have academic integrity. They might be misusing the scriptures to present their own philosophy on life. Oh, it's okay to follow 3 regulative principles and the other one, it's too tough in this day and age. It's you have to be careful. You have to be careful. You have to be very careful. So, and when there's a shortage of association, you have to seek it out. You have to know how to get that uplifting association. At one stage, we were posted in Canberra, and tough outpost. I was chanting my rounds one day, walking around, realising in this whole city, there's probably only one person chanting Hare Krishna. So it was isolated. I was instructed by the GBC, if you ever feel the lack of association, just get on the phone, get on a bus, go and get association. Take whatever it takes to go and get association. And then seek out that association. Don't just appear, and take advantage of that association. Sometimes devotees come knocking on your door and you say, oh, Prabhu, I'm too busy, come back later. Just chanting my rounds. And then later you realise that was Krishna reaching out. That was Krishna sending somebody there to help me. And I just had to be a little bit more humble, and a little bit more confident, and a little bit more conscious that here is Krishna's hand. So Dhritarashtra, he kept on hearing from his son and his sons and his other sons. They advised him. They had their evil plans. They were just completely envious of the devotees. The Pandavas, they were glorious. They were loved by everybody. They were getting so much support. And even without the royal treasury, even without the proper position, even without the kingdom, they were still much better off, much more glorious. One can be a pauper. One can have no opulence, but still if one's heart is full, then one has the whole world at one's fingertips. You're locked in a little house and you're niggardly and you're holding on to your little 6x3 space, and you won't let anybody else in, you're a pauper. Whereas if you can appreciate that the world is your home, then everything is there to be utilised in Krishna's service, and you can help to share that gift with other people. This particular purport describes there was no need to inquire about Dhritarashtra because it was clear that he was gliding down to hell. You commit so many atrocities, you do so many nasty things, you condone plots to kill other people, to set up the house of lac, to poison Bhima, to do so many things. You condone those things, you're an accomplice. You're liable for punishment. You don't speak out against some wrong. The definition of non-violence is not that you just... But if you arrest somebody's further forward progress, if you don't inform somebody, there's a hole there, you're about to fall in the hole, that's violence. You're committing violence because you're not sending somebody the proper means to rescue themselves. You know, to have knowledge means to have responsibility. You know something, but if you don't share that knowledge, you're a miser. Not a Brahmana, not a broad-minded personality, but a duratma, a cripple-minded person. Keeping it for yourself, not sharing, not helping others. So Dhritarashtra, gliding down to hell. What do they say? Hell in a bucket. Nothing to look forward to. Vidura, out of family affection, he still had a place in the corner of his heart. He'd grown up with Vidura, with Dhritarashtra. So he understood his older brother, and attachment. Considering that, yes, he could share something. Vidura is famous for wisdom. Yamaraj, the Lord of Death, he has to deliberate. He has to be a judge, a really smart personality to decide what's the best thing to, what's the word? When you don't go, you go for recuperation, for rectification, for rehab. Something. Rehabilitation. Yeah, you're supposed to go to prison. Just used in a different context. So. Rehab. Yeah, rehab, you go there and you're supposed to come out clean. You're supposed to come out clean. But unless you give up your old bad habits, you're going to stay there. You have to go back again and again. It's said that different levels of intelligence. One who commits a mistake and doesn't learn from their mistakes, they've got third-class intelligence. You hear, stealing is bad. Stealing is bad. And you understand that there's consequences. You get punished. One of my younger relatives is a political activist. He's on a good behaviour bond at the moment, but he's still, amongst his associates, he indulges in stealing, and they're proud of him. He focuses on stealing from multinationals. It's some political thing, but still, his family, his parents are concerned that he will get punished. He will get a criminal record. The consequence. So if you're aware of those things, and you ignore those things, then you're destined to have to go through the process. First-class intelligent person, they hear. If you touch fire, you'll get burnt. They don't have to touch fire. Their experience is through hearing. Their intelligence is able to penetrate and take advantage of that. Then they refrain from stealing. So, Yamaraj, the Lord of Death, extremely intelligent. There was once a personality, it was their time was approaching. They got wind of it. They knew that they were about to leave their body and that they had to meet. They had an appointment with Yamaraj. Yamaraj was going to deal with them. They said Yamaraj has different faces. For the devotees, he's a gentleman. He's a servant of Krishna. And for instance, Dhruva Maharaj. When Dhruva Maharaj was ready to depart, his Vaikuntha aeroplane was there, ready for him to depart. Yamaraj, Lord of Death, came and paid his obeisances to Dhruva because he'd become a devotee. He was worthwhile, glorious to take his shelter. He paid his obeisances. Dhruva put his foot on his head and stepped up into the Vaikuntha airplane. So death is not a bogeyman, is not frightening for those who have conquered death. You invite Yamaraj to the kirtan when Jai and Vijay, when they were delivered, Chitragupta, the scribe of Yamaraj in heaven, suddenly all those recordings of their sinful activities became void, became blank. So much sinful activity, Jagai and Madai. But at the moment they received the mercy, the benediction of the liberation, the freedom from their past sinful activities by taking shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then their slate was wiped clean. And Yamaraj and Chitragupta started dancing in ecstasy in kirtan. So Yamaraj, like that, he is very discriminating, he's very intelligent. This personality, he knew that he had an appointment with Yamaraj. He was a potter, a sculptor, very expert sculptor. So in order to attempt to fool Yamaraj, he sculpted forms of himself in different poses. 8 of them. And he set them up, and then Yamaraj was approaching, so he also, in the same dress, the same guise, the same mood, stood amongst them. 9 identical forms of this person. And Yamaraj came and he said, called him out and said, "It's time, you've got to go." And then he looked around, he couldn't find him. And he looked around and he saw, wow, really expert sculptor. He's done a really good job. How am I going to find him? So he, using amazing psychology and intelligence, he started to criticize. He said, "Wow, what a lousy job. This guy, he doesn't..." And then the sculptor, his false ego riled up, stepped forward and said, "What do you mean?" Yamaraj said, "Thank you very much. You come with me. You can't fool somebody who's very intelligent. You might be able to pull the wool over the eyes of some of the people. You can't fool everybody all the time." So Yamaraj is very intelligent. Vidura, very intelligent. He understood his brother, and he understood how he could deliver him, how he could relieve him from this heavy burden of sin and karma and gliding down to hell. Verse Yasyasti Bhakti Bhagavati Kinchana Savai Gunas Tatra Samasate Suraha Harava Bhaktasha Kuto Mahad Gunam Manorate Nasati Davati Bahi. For one who is a devotee, then all the good qualities of the demigods, they manifest within that person, just by having a particular attitude, a particular mood, a particular way of looking, an outlook. Whereas one who is a non-devotee, Dhritarashtra, he wasn't a lover of Krishna. Elevated soul, but not a lover of Krishna. For a non-devotee, they have no good qualities. Even if they're expert in so many fields, Hiranyakashipu and Ravan, great big demons, they were very qualified Brahmins, performing yajna and ruling the universe, had lots of managerial skills. They were precise, they were paka. But one thing was missing. They hated Krishna. They denied Krishna. So no good qualities, because you're sitting on the cart of the mind, mano rata. You're hovering on the mental platform. Oh, I want to enjoy. I want to become the one. I want to control. And there's somebody who's getting in my way, and I want to kill them. I'll perform a sacrifice and I'll get rid of them before more tapasya. Dhritarashtra, Vidura spoke with him. I think it's in the early parts of this chapter. You're just living in the house of those personalities who have destroyed your family. You're just like a dog. They're throwing scraps to you and you're lapping it up, and you've lost all dignity. Your teeth are falling out. Your liver's becoming defective. You're blind from birth. Get out. Retain some higher virtue. Don't just be like a dog. Become a little bit more elevated. He niggles him. He pushes him. He gets under his skin. It's said that the devotees they understand the plan of Krishna. They know that Krishna's plan is the ultimate. But they know what is Krishna's higher plan. And sometimes they will intercede on behalf of somebody. They'll request Krishna, please give some mercy to this personality. Please deliver them. And Krishna, because the devotee's asking, he becomes obliged. The well-wisher in the corner of the heart. You have a little feeling for somebody. So if you offer your even concern, even words, even a few words, then that personality can get benediction. So Dhritarashtra, he left home with Vidura and with his wife, his chaste wife, without telling anybody else. The next morning, after they discovered he was not there, they were looking around the palace. Where's Uncle Dhritarashtra? He'd gone to the forest, and he set himself up, and over 3 or 4 days performed austerities, withdrew his external senses from the objects of the senses, and was able to leave his body in a state of it was called dhira, sober state, not so mode of passion, not so much on fire and lust to enjoy. He was dhira. Vidura actually, it's described there, he was a little bit upset that he wasn't able to elevate him to a higher stage of sannyas or naratam. There's different levels of devotees. Dhira, sober, sannyas, renounced, naratam, topmost human being. So he was hoping, he was capable of delivering such a personality, but Dhritarashtra was only capable at this time of achieving that sort of level of detachment, renunciation. So if you get such is the behavior of a Vaishnava like Vidura. He desires all good, even for his enemies. You have an enemy, there's a couple of different ways that you can deal with them. You can become their enemy. Somebody curses you, you can harass them back. You can feel bad against them. And then what happens? Their bad vibes, you become affected. They're thinking of you, and you're always thinking of them. So you're getting their bad association. You're taking their this person, he's always you're getting their bad energy. A neutral, a middle way of interacting is to not interact, not to react. It's okay, they can say whatever they like. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. Higher than that is to become their well-wisher. You don't react, you don't take on their reaction. To become their well-wisher, this personality, I understand they're under the modes. I wish they could see. I wish they could get a vision of a higher reality and understand that we're all servants of Krishna and we're all struggling. We should support each other. Then, positive benefit for both. For both. So to always desire the good, even for his enemy, this is a more elevated position. And Vidura, he's representing that, the behavior of a Vaishnava. So, a lot to be learnt from this particular aspect of Krishna's pastimes, and Vidura here is, pretty amazing soul. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Maitreya, although he wasn't so dear to Krishna, he was very, he had a very intimate relationship with Vyasadeva. So Vyasadeva regarded him as a friend, so he benedicted him. The principle of the spiritual life, if you please the spiritual master, that's the way to make advancement, get the blessings of the spiritual master. So you please somebody, then, despite the fact that you're not qualified, you can become empowered. So Maitreya, he was the personality at that time. Questions and answers, often the person who's asking the questions, they know the answer. So it's a matter of bringing out the dialogue, increasing the rasa. It said that Krishna is not in the temple, he's not in the hearts of the yogis who are meditating, he's not in Vaikuntha. But wherever the devotees are together discussing him, Krishna manifests there. So it's an opportunity to do like that, to bring out Krishna, to bring Krishna to the forefront. The other personalities were instructing. Vidura Dhritarashtra, he was his elder brother, but there's 4 criteria for seniority. One is age, another is knowledge, another is initiation. I can't remember what the 4th one is. Position. Oh yeah, if you have a managerial position or something like that. If you're suddenly you become the President of the United States, so then you get the title Naradev, the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or like a demigod. But then you get out of that position, and so you're no longer regarded like that. So to be in a position senior. So knowledge, concern, all of these things put him into a more elevated position whereby he could instruct. And he would have maintained the etiquette of talking with his brother, not forcing him, but and that's the way to give instruction. You have to be very humble. Oh, Prabhu, I understand you're going through some trouble. I've experienced something like that, and if you like, I could share how I dealt with them. Not that I know everything and you've got to listen to me. There's a lot of etiquette involved in hearing and responding and associating, and giving, being in relationships. Thank you.
I heard my spiritual master, Krishna Goswami, and I've also heard another sannyasi mention that when they don't really instruct, that my Gurumaji gave the example, like someone says, oh Gurumaji, I want to move to Australia or New Zealand, and
I want to what?
They want to move countries.
Move countries.
They want to get married, but they already decided what they want to do, but they're just asking or telling the spiritual master, so-called, but the spiritual master says, I can't say anything, I have to agree with what they say, because if I say no, they're going to do it anyway, and then they'll be doing Guru Avagya?
Guru Avagya.
Yeah, not following the instructions of the spiritual master. So how can, or even just in general, when we're taking guidance from senior devotees, how to not lose that opportunity, because we observe sometimes that devotees don't want to instruct because they know that person's not willing to take it. So even they see something wrong, they won't say anything, they just leave the person, let them be, and they'll learn. Krishna will show them in their way. But
yeah, often by praying. How do we
not fall into that trap of missing out the opportunity to hear from senior?
We have to purify our intelligence, purify our hearts, so that we can take advantage of the indications. Taking association from devotees doesn't mean that we have to be, rubbing shoulders and chumming, but just instructions. The spiritual master is not always present, but the instructions, the Vani, is more accessible, more viable. To have received an instruction and then to be, meditating on that, churning that, repeating that over and over again, and finding the subtle nuances of that instruction allows us to. Well, I was instructed. I've got to get out of this situation. My spiritual master instructed me like this. Raghunath Das Goswami, he was instructed. I want to go and be with Lord Chaitanya, but Lord Chaitanya said, no, stay at home. Look after your parents, they're devotees. And but if you see the opportunity to escape, then take off. So he saw they were properly situated, and then they put down their guard at one stage. The guard was also used as a means to get out of there. Oh, you have the spiritual master, he's calling you. So he just took off, and then he kept on going and avoided and then when he got to be with Lord Chaitanya, he accepted still from his father the the riches, and he used them for Lord Chaitanya. And after a while they realized, well, we can't bind him up, we'll just let him go. So to please and to fulfill our duty to as many personalities as possible, that's the best thing that we can do. In that way, to be Trinadapi Sanicana Tarori Vasishna, to not desire honour for oneself and to always be able to give respect to others. In that way also we can chant 24 hours a day. If we've got the proper attitude, the proper means and understanding how we're going to exist in this world, how we're going to become free from this world. It's not by our own endeavours alone. So we have to be conscious of those things, and then Krishna can give us intelligence from within to understand the right thing. Okay. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Gaura Pranandi.